Guilt by association.
Guilt by association. The long and the short of it is all the lies of the 90s, in which nobody's going to come out clean when the real history of this is ever written, as I hope it will be written. It's going to take years, decades to clear up. We don't have the luxury of, or the resources for that matter, of clearing up everything that happened in the 90s before we could set straight what's on Kosovo, given that we're talking about a political process that inherently moves faster than the process of education and analysis of what really is the truth about this region of the world. So our focus has been primarily on what's going on in Kosovo today, what will go on in Kosovo in the near future, and as it relates to things that happened in the past, yes, we do try to explain them, but we don't think it's possible to really go back at this time and try to open up the whole can of worms.
No, but what I'm saying is, what I'm thinking is perhaps the reason, the problem is not history. And I want to ask you, don't you think it's perhaps...
Can I add
just one
question? Don't you think it would be wiser for the Serbs to, in order to rectify the situation, the image, first of all, perhaps think of reforms? I just came back from Georgia, from Tbilisi, and I saw the amazing process they had on the Rose Revolution over in about 3 years. They managed to completely change the country. It's a new country today. And I think, and this is a word of advice perhaps, that if Serbia were to engage in a similar process of reform, of opening, I mean, I think that would actually be more of a benefit than focusing on history and trying to change history.
May I be brutally honest with you?
Yeah.
Because I've got some experience with Georgia. I don't know if you follow the trial of Maya Topuria in Georgia right now, but Saakashvili government is applying purely Bolshevik methods in a political trial against his political enemies. The long and the short of it is that it's not about openness, it's not about changing society, it's about whether people who make policy in Washington think, are you on our side or are you against us? Are you doing what you've been told to do, or are you resisting us? Saakashvili is considered our boy in the Caucasus, therefore he can engage in any kind of abuse he wants, and Washington will look the other way or even encourage it. That's the sad fact. And the problem in Serbia, look, I'll give you an example here. Serbia is a democratic European state. It has perfect tolerance and respect for all. It's one of the most multi-ethnic states in all of Europe. Albanians from Kosovo, by the way, when they go to Europe, they have only one way to go. They go through Serbia. They do move without any hazard to their safety. There are Albanians, hundreds of thousands of Albanians and other Muslims who live perfectly free lives in Serbia, whereas Serbs can't step out of their enclaves without fear of their lives. It's not something the Serbs have failed to do. On the contrary, they've rolled over and bared their necks as much as possible over the last 8 years, with the hope that Washington will see reason and treat them as a partner. Instead, because they will not give up, the one thing they cannot give up in Kosovo, they are still on the bad guys list in many people's minds. I don't agree with you that that's the problem.
Well, I did want to say Serbia has been trying to put itself back on the map. Tourism is really jumping there. So they are trying to do, I think, what you were sort of suggesting that they do. So in terms of the superficial image-changing things that have nothing to do with setting history straight, they're on that course in terms of tourism. And 50 Cent just performed in Belgrade. Yes. And there was a New York Times article about a year and a half ago called Belgrade Rocks. So they are trying to show themselves as being normal, westernized people, although in the minds of the public reading this, they're going to say, okay, so they've changed to be more normal and civilized and Western because we are not examining the history, which indicates that they always were, more so than their neighbors.
Yeah, but look at the end effect. I mean, that's what's going to bring the congressmen to change their mind on this whole issue. You see the
Can I just
sorry.
sorry. I know what you're saying, and I understand it, and I agree. Also, fundamentally, the Serbs have never been very good at protecting themselves.
This is true.
In terms of PR, because they feel that truth will always come to the surface, and why should it be pushed? It was too late for Serbia to do anything. By the time, the Croatia was fighting in Croatia, right, even from the beginning, from the time of Slovenia, when they tried to go into restore order. They were presented by CNN and the major media outlets in the United States and Europe as being the villains, the Serb-dominated Yugoslav army. So by the time they realized themselves what was happening, it was already too late. And I mean, as ambassador in Belgrade, and I've said this repeatedly, I could not get any Canadian media to come to Belgrade. They weren't interested. They wanted to go to Sarajevo, they wanted to go to Vukovar, they wanted to go where the action was, because now we're in television. They want film, they want bodies, they want massacres, they want explosions, they want refugees. They're not interested in the substance of the policy. And that was the problem. And in addition to that, by the time the Serbs tried to present themselves as saying, look, we in Serbia are not the Serbs of Bosnia, we sympathize and so on, but we're not directing them. It was too late, and they've been demonized, and they are today. The reason I've spoke up was partly because my wife said, look, you know the truth, start speaking it. And I did, because I knew that if someone other than a Serb did speak out, and did try and get people convinced that this, what they were seeing on television was not the right thing. They may see Serb paramilitary scorpions taking out Albanian or Muslims off the truck and shooting them. What they don't see is what everybody else has, including the UN and the Hague Tribunal. Serbs being beheaded by mujahideen in Bosnia. They don't show those images. There's not a possibility. At the Hague Tribunal, anything Milosevic said in his defense, and he destroyed almost all of those who came before him. None of it was reported. You can't get anything pro-Serb in the North American media. Nothing. Even when the International Court of the Hague found Serbia not guilty of genocide, on Canadian television, 3 or 4 times a day was the picture of these young Muslims being loaded off the truck and shot.
Let me give you an example. I think something on a level early 93 or late 92, before Srebrenica, before any of this stuff really bad as the Bosnian War had started. The Bishop of Herzegovina from Bosnia-Herzegovina, the Serbian bishop, came to Washington, found me because I was one of the few people in Washington who could talk to a Serb. I was still working at the Senate, and he had a stack of documents like this.